Olafur, can you tell us about the importance of Iceland to you?
It's funny to sit here in Brisbane on the other side of the world, right? Like literally Iceland, Brisbane, or maybe I should do Brisbane, Iceland. Iceland was always so important for me because everything in Iceland was about what has not yet fully taken shape. So I call it the country of unthought thoughts. And when you go there, you think about things that you did not think that you would think about.
Yeah.
I grew up in Denmark in part. Denmark is about all the things that you think about that you should be thinking about. But Iceland, that's good for making the impossible possible, seeing the invisible. And Iceland, of course, in that sense, has become very important for me.
Even from a really little boy, you were visiting your grandparents there. Both of your parents are from Iceland, so you were moving to and fro.
As a child, I went back and forth all the time. My parents were Icelandic. My father moved back very early. I was more like a ping pong ball, right? In Iceland, the sun goes around. Here's the horizon, like this. It's a disc, right? I'm here. The sun just goes in the summer, it just goes around. It doesn't really go down. In Denmark, the sun goes like down and it gets dark. Ooh, it must be night. Then it gets up again, it must be day. In Iceland, when it goes to winter, the sun is down here. There's like no light all winter. So in an interesting way, Denmark was the kind of the rational of balancing out, right? The day and the night, the up and the down and the in and the out. And that's very good for thinking sometimes. But in Iceland, there was this notion of, oh my God, the day is never ending, or the night is never ending. I live in twilight land. This is all soft. There's tenderness. There's this kind of nature that you have. How far away is this mountain? And you go, oh, look, the sun. The sun it's a cone. It has a shaded and a bright side. I can see the shape of the mountain because of the way the sun does. We know that if the sun shines from above us, like down, the mountain has the same color everywhere. There's no shade. So Iceland really gave depth. It gave a dimension to things where you go like, I can see space. Right?
You explore light in so many ways in your work. How did that come to be important?
Because it gave me not just a way to see, but also a way to question how we see. Because of that, it became very important for me. If you hold space for light, then it is a little bit like not asking a question, but asking a question about how do we ask questions. So light has this capacity of introspection almost. For me, light was a way of dematerializing the objecthood in art, take away the fetishism, the object, right? And in that sense, suddenly it's about, can I touch it? What is softness, tenderness? Is this even the right question?
And could you talk a bit about beauty and the way you use light with beauty?
So there's this thing with light, right? That it doesn't really reveal itself unless it falls on something. So it needs a kind of a friend, like a shirt, right? It needs something, otherwise you can't really, and now my hand is here, and now it's glowing, right? If there wasn't any light, it wouldn't be visible. So the light is only actually there when it is bouncing into something. On some occasions, lights bounce into small things that are quite ephemeral themselves, like a drop of water, right? Like a little drop of water. And if a beam of light is busy sort of minding its own business and suddenly hits a drop of water, the water, because it's round, bounces back the light in a spectrum. We know this from the sort of Newtonian little prism. So I think it's 47 degrees from ultraviolet into blue, from blue to green, green to yellow, yellow to orange, orange to red, and then red into infrared. Red becomes heat, right? Here's the drop, there's the lamp, here's the colors. Now, if there is nobody seeing whatever is going on here, one could argue, is it then actually there? Where does the light go when nobody's looking at it? I think that's a funny question. So when now we put in an eye, which so happens to be a ball as well, right? A nice little round, sort of gooey ball. And suddenly you have a triangle. You have the source of light, like the sun. the drop, like if it's raining, and then you have a person looking, and you go like, oh, look at that blue, oh, look at that rainbow. And the rainbow is because there's like many drops, right? So you see all the colors, but not over each other, because then it would be white. The reason why I'm so excited about these things and the work I did already 30 years ago, called Beauty, which happens to be in this great collection here in QAGOMA in Brisbane. So that work was really about, I can stand here, I can sit here, and I can see, oh, there's a rainbow. That's not a bad work of art. No, so that's a rainbow. I say, hi Geraldine, do you see the colors? And you say, no, because you see a different rainbow. Because the angle, you are not here, you're not inside my eye, you see a different rainbow. And I know that because I know that the rainbow I see is only there because I'm there. If I go out, that rainbow is gone. Your rainbow is still there because you didn't leave. Do you see, this is a space in which we have the same experience but we see something different. Or we are experiencing that we are different and we are still together. We need spaces where we can share an experience without having to be the same. And a rainbow is so interesting. It's also an interesting symbol for that. It's about being together even though we are not the same. The beauty of beauty is that it is something that you are not receiving. This is not a shopping mall. You're at a museum. It's not a spa. You're actually being put to work. It's not about wellness. No, it's about producing. It's about becoming a co-producer and not being a consumer. If you are being granted the authority or the generosity of co-producing the museum, the experience, then you are also important, which means you are good enough to actually participate, to give, and you leave the museum and say, that's not bad, they needed me. They used, my eye to do that whole thing with the rainbow. I was important. My presence was valid. And that's nice, because where do we go and feel that our presence is valid? Why are we bloody walking on eggshells all the time to not kind of upset somebody or get into trouble with somebody? So where do we feel good enough, right? There's so few places where a rainbow is just beautiful. And I'm very happy that it's here in Brisbane.
There's a little drawing that you made of beauty which shows these components and the place of the audience. Can you describe that a little bit to us?
Well, the audience in Beauty, which is a water curtain with a light and then many drops, and then there's a rainbow if you look at it. Suddenly you and I, as audience, are finishing the work that this artist, this random artist from Iceland did, water curtain. I didn't really make you see it. You made the experience. I created the platform for that to happen, or the situation. I co-produced it, co-authored. I tickled the narrative. I massaged the gooiness and softness and tenderness into the whole experience. But you, with all your luggage that you bring with you, all your memories, you finished it. And let's say finished not as the end, but finished it as accepting you have come to a crossroad. You know what crossroads are like, here in Australia in particular, like long roads are so big, then there's a crossroad. What do? Even though you know you're gonna go straight, you still slow down. And you're just kind of checking out what's going on. Oh, there's a gas station and there's like this. And then you go, oh, I'm slowing down. I'm reconsidering, am I going the right way? And I like this slowing down part and the crossroad, the question of, could I reconsider? What am I thinking about? What is going on in my life? Where am I? Who am I? Do I even exist? So that's the things that I think beauty is capable of.
Yeah. Olafur, why is the audience so important to you?
If there was no artist, there would be no museums. That's good to know and not to forget, especially by the museums. If there was no audience, there would also be no museums. I know, maybe not even as many artists as we have. So the audience is very, very important. Now, let's go a little bit closer into that. What is actually going on? What does the audience want? Well, they want to be audience. In the spirit of they want to be a part of things. I think what we all want, everyone, the museum and artists too, we want to not be alone. We don't want to be isolated. We don't want to be disconnected. So I think for me, the audience essentially is about connectivity. you can reach across and make an audience feel seen. Seen, met, felt, heard. Now that is something, because what better experience is it when an audience leaves a museum, for instance, and they don't say, oh, I saw this, but they say, I was seen. I had that bit of emotional conundrum. I was just kind of dealing with it, but now I didn't necessarily find the solution. That's not important, but at least I got a chance to verbalize it differently than I normally do. That's why audience is amazing. They are, a co-producer. As an artist, I'm happy to put forward a question, but to make the question relevant in a context and time and space, I need somebody to take it further. That's what the audience does. And every once in a while there's somebody who even comes with an answer. And the museum in that case, that's the rotating disc upon all of this is taking place.
Yeah. And could you tell us, I think you've picked up this relationship with the audience flows on. We've got 3 new works for the exhibition. 2 of these use polarization. And I think in these works, the movement of the audience is also really important in how we perceive the work. There's a central work in the exhibition, Your Vulnerability, from 2 perspectives.
The question of vulnerability, Geraldine, is of course exciting. Normally people say oh, but the truth is, if we have the courage, the stamina to lower our defensiveness and just be a little more vulnerable. Normally we deal with the world through our little ocular system, the eyes, right? And to be fair, we're quite disembodied. I'm checking, hi camera, check. So my eyes are guiding me. Vulnerability, I think, has to do with getting into your body. You become unnumb. You unnumb yourself. That's quite an exercise. See, unnumbing yourself is allowing a much stronger sense of temporality, presence. And this means suddenly you introduce sensitivity, and that brings about relativity. Suddenly you go oh, what's that? Oh, on the side of the frame.
Is a surprise important in that unnumbing?
I don't think a surprise is really a surprise. A real surprise is a shock. But a surprise is more like kind of, wow, things are maybe not as they appear to be. And that's the vulnerable part about being disembodied, because we can suddenly feel a language, art. It's not French, right? It's not algebra, it's not science, it's not politics. No, it's art. It's an embodied language, right? It's I'm seeing with my body. And that's why with the polarized works, right? The polarization in principle is like, oh, it's red, now it's green, now it's blue. It's red, green, blue. So I'm doing this, I'm swinging, I'm wriggling. Just like when the first small bacteria, amoebas, went up from the ocean and became humans, essentially, right? They were wriggling with the sun.
Yeah.
See, now seeing with your body, that I think is actually super interesting, and that requires a visitor, first of all. And there's more works like that.
Yeah.
Beauty is like that too.
Yeah.
And so the participation, the Lego table, like playing with the Lego, and the riverbed. You walk on the riverbed and you go like, ooh, and this slanted slope.
And this is like a spill of rock, isn't it, in the room? It's almost like a slice of Icelandic landscape arrived in the gallery with a little stream.
And
flowing
everybody knows,
through it.
oh, this is landscape, this is nature. That's one thing about the audience, they're always very smart, especially the kids. They get, stones, easy, got that. No, but it's more like this kind of like, oh, ooh, be careful now, oh, ooh, it's wet, oh, hold on. This is like a kind of a subversive yoga. But when you go back into the gallery, you go like, oh my God, the floor is really flat. See, this is interesting. The memory of the instability influences your uptake on the stability. So we don't really deal with exterior or outside ideas. You don't go into the riverbed or into beauty to get out of the real world. No, you go into them because the real world becomes a part of your microscope. You can see things in higher granularity, in higher definition. You see things different once you have been gone through this embodied language of dealing with stuff. Unless, of course, you're completely closed. That's also gonna be okay. even if people don't like it, they are also welcome. This is super important. There is not just one group or one segment or one part or one way of doing things that is right. No, everyone, of course. Maybe it takes a few visits before you think, oh, maybe this language is actually worth something for me.
This exhibition that we've made together, there's a progression of works, but there's things that are quite surprising and startling to people, aren't there? And you know, you were mentioning about whether someone might happen to be closed, but I think these artworks really open you up in ways.
Thank you for saying that. Let's hope so.
And maybe we could talk about the title work of the exhibition, Presence, which is also entirely new, and you know, this has come out of a process. You very generously invited me to come and spend time with you and your team in Berlin, and this has been quite fascinating for me to be a witness to this development process for these new works and the exhibition overall.
It's been a particular privilege for me to have you spend time in the studio, having access to all the sort of backstage stuff, because you come from a museum with a curatorial sensitivity, a distinct one, the very particular dimension of things that you can see, and it is not often possible to have this degree of closeness or proximity, you know, because it more becomes an overlap somehow. And suddenly I can see what you're seeing, I think, and you can see what I'm seeing. You think, that's close enough already, and then you start to see new things. This is a luxury, it truly is. And the particular work named Presence that is giving the title to the show is a model, if you want, of the sun. The nice thing is that while we were still working on the show, somebody sent a satellite or a kind of a little probe towards the sun to photograph it. And they called it Icarus, which I thought was funny. And that photographed the sun in resolution never ever seen before. That data generously was put on the internet. Up until this moment, there was a limit to what we could see. And behind the limit, there was other stuff. And suddenly you could see that.
And it was almost visualizing data, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's like just like a trillion fantasy atomic bombs going on at the same time, minding their own business, just being at the sun. So that I thought was very fascinating. And of course, at the same time, over here, I was trying to think of what type of sculpture could I make so that the skin of the sculpture would just completely destabilize if you moved. A while back we started working with moire, which is how I got into polarization actually. Moire is when you have two patterns in front of each other and they're slightly off, and then when they do this, your eyes and your brain, they go like, isn't there a third pattern in there? That's called the moire pattern. In printing press, it's called Newton lines or Newton rings or something like this. And what is nice, if you go like this, you can see
Seems
something.
to move, doesn't it?
There's something that, and it's also an interference between two patterns. What it does, it makes you aware of that the looking is what creates the moire. It's a little bit like the drop of the rainbow. If you're not looking, there's no color. So these photos, astonishing, but they were so unstable, they were frightening. The sun was frightening, my God. Hopefully it doesn't get closer. Hopefully it doesn't bloody warm up the planet more. But that's a lot of stuff that is burning there. And you know, we live in time with global warming. You know, everything's getting too hot, not at least here in Australia. So I'm telling you to get a good view on the sun and understanding that it depends on how you stand, move and think and do. That the sun is dependent on you, not the other way around. We are gonna burn, we are gonna burn unless we do something about our relationship to the sun. So that idea of movement is not just about gooey time and artist talk, it's actually about honoring the spectator with a credit of seeing who they are.
And to experience presence, we walk into this room and this is something quite incredible that you and the team have designed and tested and built.
If you walk up close, you can see that with the stuff you have in your kitchen drawer and in the garage, you could have done it yourself. And I'm not kidding. This is so important. This is not about magic. This is not Las Bloody Vegas. This is nice because it's something you could have done. Because if you walk up to it, you say, oh my God, this is just perforated metal sheets.
Maybe it's like the strainer in your kitchen. If
you see?
Yeah.
This place here, which is a museum, is not about fooling people. It's not about magic. This is not Siegfried and Roy, right? This is about being honest and having the courage to be vulnerable, because then you have trust. If you want people to trust you, you cannot fool around with them. You cannot say, haha, this is red and then it's actually blue. No, that's politics in America, right? No, here we need to be different and better and show a bigger sort of perspective of things. And the funny thing is, you know, we ran out of space, so we only really did 1/8 of a sun, right? A tetraeder, I think. No, what is it called? Octaeder. If you take an octaeder, inflate it, then you get a ball, but then you take one out. That's what we did.
I think of it as a quarter of the orange cut in half.
Yeah, and the quarter, and then the top quarter, so it's 8.
Yeah.
Then we put mirrors, mirror and mirror, right? This one, and this one. If it was only left and right, it would be, you know, a quarter, but now we put it on the top, then it's 4 times 2 details. So here we have the whole sun, and we can't even see it. But what is funny is Moray, like this, right? Looking at Moray through a mirror is different. You cannot mirror Moray. If you look at something and it appears to be one thing, normally in the mirror you have the reversed, right? So if you say B here, here in the mirror it would be the reversed B. Right?
Yeah.
Or if it says U, like I like to say, here we say Oi. With Moray it's different. It says U, and here it says U in a different way, not the same. So in the mirror, as I said, details were like fascinating, right? In the mirror, the Moray is a different Moray than in there.
And I didn't know that, Olafur. We've worked on this for a long time, but I'm wondering, as you say that, whether the fact that maybe does it make it harder to spot the repeat, and does it create a greater sense of...
The solution is right in front of you in that room. I call it the taco.
Ah, yes.
You have a ball, and there's only one, and it is, what is it, red, I think? And then you put 2 mirrors. It looks like a taco.
Yeah.
Don't say that to anyone, because everybody's going to call it the taco.
We've already been calling it the taco, because you call it the giant taco.
So anyway, the ball is yellow, and there's 2 mirrors. You go, oh, there's a red ball in 2 mirrors. But then you look in the mirror, and then the bloody ball is blue on one side, and it's green on the other side. And then you go like on the outside of the mirror, and you go like, wow, there are things that we think that we can think that we cannot think unless we really think it through.
That work, which is called There Are No Bad Parts, and it's a very large sculptural work, isn't it? Well, it's large actually, but presence is really large. It's fully, not only floor to ceiling, but it even seems to stretch beyond the bounds of the room. But the taco,
there's no bad parts,
it's got a kind of circle of moons, hasn't it? And
well, it's like the big sun is only 1/8, but the whole sun is visible, right? It's very straightforward. People can also see, mirror, easy. And the taco is a little more complex. You know, when you have 2 mirrors and you put yourself in between, you go like, you have yourself
a little
many
ring
times.
of selves.
But imagine now you have 2 mirrors, you put yourself in between, and then every reflection you are a different color. It's actually very easy, because when I look at the red ball here, and it's a glass ball and has a red dot. But if I put a blue dot here, but I don't see it. But if I look through the mirror, I look at the ball here, and then I see the blue dot. It's like as simple as that. So it only takes about a nanosecond or maybe a minute for you to figure out, oh my God, I could have done that at home in the garage. Just give me some paint and I can just quickly do it. There's really not much to it, and I like that because it hands over the responsibility of sorting out your stuff to you. I'm not trying to tell you anything. I'm very happy to be here with you, and be here with you, Geraldine, with the museum, and not at least with the audience, and to co-host a little sort of gathering where we don't have to agree, we don't have to see the same, but we are all good enough as we are.
Well, Olafur, it took me longer than a nanosecond with that work. It's a really fun process to see something and then figure out how you arrive at this. I think also for me, spending time at the studio, I could see that you did a lot of testing and exploration. You'd pick up an idea, turn it around. I really loved seeing you draw as the works were designed and resolved. Can you talk a little bit about that process of exploring ideas and testing?
I'm fortunate to work with a fantastic team of people who are enjoying also to play around. This is really quite a privilege. Many of them have been there more than 20 years, so they got there before I started, clearly. So the thing is, we have a space, I call it the garden space, and it's turned out that it's actually very important for my head to know to have this space. And this is for things that are not meant for something. Because it's just so hard to actually have a space for stuff that is not functionalized, commercialized. Some client wants this and that, then this and this, and then there's a gallery, and then there's a museum, then there's a curator. No, there's a little space here. And it's not really sacred, it's prosaic. It's actually human. There's nothing at all sacred about it, other than all the things that doesn't really make sense. We take them in there and then we nurture them. We play with them and say, oh, you don't feel like you make sense, little artwork. Why don't we just check it out a bit? And that might in it as of itself be a value. Why do we go with uncertainty and doubt? Why do we go with slowness? Maybe uncertainty is the new certainty, because it has to do with honesty. I'm uncertain, I don't know. That is the most honest thing I can say right now, also in this interview. That means I just decided not to become a politician or a CEO, because that's not a popular thing to say if you're out there in the world. Out there, you're supposed to be a champion. And I am tired. I am so tired of being a champion. Always have to say the right thing. So rather just lean into saying, well, I just don't bloody know. I am gonna take myself the time and work on my presence, maybe even a little bit on my appearance, but focus on how can I be present to the truth? How can I sit with the truth? Because I don't even know what the truth is anymore, looking at the world. So in the studio, it is lively. Right? There's stuff, 100 people, tons of stuff. When we step from the outside into the studio, we don't escape the world. We step closer to it. We can feel everything in higher granularity. One piece in this show is called There Is No Bad Parts. You say that about the studio, There Is No Bad Parts. It's referencing a book about inner stability, a psychology book by Richard Schwartz. That has influenced me, but I think of my studio, there is no bad parts. Even the things that goes wrong, the uncertainty, the doubt, the softness, why don't we just say, for the time being, it makes sense to be uncertain, tender, blurry, fuzzy, out of focus.
You talk about holding space open for the art, which I feel like that's very close to this holding space for uncertainty. Do you think this is something that people might feel more welcome to do themselves in their lives after they've come and visited the exhibition?
I think the question about uncertainty or embracing uncertainty or acknowledging is a bigger question of, are we actually comfortable feeling how we are feeling, and how do we even deal with that? I understand that never ever before there was so much lonely young people in the world. People feel alone, and never ever before were they so connected. So how can we have the highest ever degree of connectivity? Why do everybody feel alone? Chatting on the phone is actually not chatting with another person, because the body is missing. You are physically here, I'm physically here, there's a space, there's time around us, there's other people here in the room filming us, and so there's like a dynamic thing. And I feel connectedness. So I want to feel bad, belonging, acknowledged, and dignity. That comes with an embodiment. So here we are in a situation where suddenly we need to deal with what does it mean to actually be in touch with your own presence. And it's not easy. Presence is, a topic, it sounds like yoga, like presence. That's not what I mean. Now, presence has to do with being accountable to your actions and having this courage to actually check in on ourselves. I think that is what presence sort of starts with.
You sometimes talk about a kind of we-ness occurring where the artworks open up this space where people connect with each other. Do you see that happening here in Brisbane?
We have a city, Brisbane, right? We have a country, Australia. We have a world which is called the Earth. Inside of the word Earth, there's the word art. But in Brisbane, there's something we could call the cultural sector. Right? There's a mall on the front of the river here with libraries and museums and cultural centers. It's quite impressive. Clearly, culture matters here. Besides that, there's a whole sort of trickle-down effect. There's artist studios, there's all this other stuff and so on. Call that culture. If we now take a step back, we have, public sector, private sector, education, everything, right? So, civic society. Civic society is trying to kind of mind its own civic society kind of business. And how does it do that? Well, it does check in on itself. Are we doing the right thing? If it does too much, then it goes the other way and so on. And it's very dynamic, very interesting. So now, culture, it's not really a sector. It's everywhere. Right? Culture is more like a kind of a presence in all of this. There is nowhere in the world where you can go and there's not a little poetry club, there's not somebody playing violin or somebody. Culture, dancing, music, literature, everywhere. Culture is the way that civic society keeps itself accountable to the times in which we live. So culture is amazing. I, as an artist from Iceland visiting Brisbane, I'm like a tiny little drop in that, but I'm feeling it, I'm happy. And the worst thing and what brings, I think, young people into depression, for instance, the best way out of that is connectivity, culture. The opposite of depression is connectedness, right? The opposite of self-medication, marginalizing yourself, shaming yourself, the opposite of that is connectivity. And this is where our museum and culture is connectivity, accountability, connectivity, and then, as I said, it's about belonging, identity, feeling acknowledged, and feeling dignity, that you are good enough, no matter who you are. If you like art or not, you're still good enough. And in that sense, do I think art matters? Or a museum and artwork, what we have worked on, do it matters? Yeah, it's incredibly important. I just don't think too much of myself in this. I'm not the art, I'm the artist. But art, the world would be a messed up place without art.
Well, we're really excited to be looking after your art here and sharing these new works with people and bringing back some favourites.
You're so kind.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, I'm so proud to be here. See, the museum is like hosting a dinner for me, and all the other visitors are the audience. And I'm grateful for your hospitality, but I'm so excited about who else is going to come to the dinner also.
So are we. Thanks, Olafur.
Thank you so much, Geraldine.
Yeah.